Hello ladies and gentlemen, Xentor here and welcome back to another YouTube video. Now we're getting to the end here of all these pre-recorded YouTube videos as I was on a holiday and I was celebrating my birthday, which was probably about a week ago now at time of release. So we're going to be looking today at some of the worst Boeing aircraft in infant flight. So the Boeing ones are literally from the 717 down to the Air Force One. Oh, that is an iconic aircraft. Now also, if you are new here, please feel free to like and subscribe. Because all the support everyone has shown me, it means all the world to me at the moment, okay? So the first aircraft we're going to be looking at is that C-17 Globemaster, where we're looking at some of the worst Boeing aircraft in infinite flight. So the C-17 was added to infinite flight many years ago, about 2012 or 13 I believe it says, and it is considered a legacy aircraft within infinite flight. Now, sorry, you probably all got deafened by that. And look at the aircraft itself. So the first thing I noticed with this aircraft is the engines a bit out of slack. There is no cockpit in the C-17 at all either. So the aircraft is sorely lacking in quite a few aspects. Now it has got landing lights, but I mean, would you really call them landing lights? It's literally like a 2D thing sticking out of the aircraft. It's quite funny, to be fair, but I suppose it does the job. However, the strobes and the navi lights do look a little bit nicer there. Also, when we look at the resolution on the tail of the aircraft, it's not really that good in comparison to the other in-flight aircraft, and it doesn't have moving doors. However, it does have landing gear transition, so we'll go into short final and we'll conveniently just show you the landing gear, hopefully without stalling. And you can see how they sort of twist into place, which is a bit of an IRL thing. But I think it's really cool that Infinite Flight made sure that the transition looked relatively realistic. So I think the gear transition does look very good on the C-17 Globemaster. Now we are probably going to stall this aircraft now. Whoops. But yeah, so all in all, this is definitely one of the worst Boeing aircraft in infinite flight. There's definitely better ones than it. But yeah, this is just personal opinion, of course. So we're going to move on to the next worst. So there's quite a few here which I'd like to show you all. But I think the next one we're going to go to is the 717. Now, I flew this yesterday. Now, this video is obviously, like I told you, being pre-recorded in a long time in advance, about almost 2 weeks in advance. And basically, when I flew the 717 yesterday, it was a pain to land. Like, I had so many trouble with this aircraft. So for a start, the physics on this aircraft in general are just not that good if you're wanting a smooth landing. So I'll quickly demonstrate that for you now if I go into short final. You can see that with the HUD, immediately the plane begins to dip, and it's just very hard, you know, to get that landing you want, and then it bounces. Now, of course, that's a very poor demonstration just from showing you here on short final, because, you know, it's just not very fair. But, like, we got a little bit better speed on this one, and I'll try and demonstrate to you. As you can see, the plane just jolts up and down. Now, I don't think it's like this in real life, because I have been on a 717, a Qantas Link one as well, in fact, which is what I'm currently showing you all. But like you said, that's about as good as you can get for a landing with the 717. It's a very hard aircraft to run. However, the 717 isn't just full of negatives in infinite flight. It has a few peaks. So look at this. It has an interior cabin. Who would have thought such an old aircraft in infinite flight has a fully interior cabin? And the best bit is the windows work. Like, you can see out of the windows. My free mode has gone crazy there. Oh, that's why, because the thing was moving. So you can actually see outside of the windows. You can't see in... Oh, you can see in the aircraft. Look at this. Wasn't even aware of that now. So the doors and that do all seem to work. And it is one of the few aircraft with an interior cabin. However, it also has an undercarriage. Now, it would be cool if Infinite Flight could add a little tweak where this actually opens up. Because as far as I'm aware, the cargo door doesn't open up, but it looks like it might open up. So we're just going to have a look at that so I'm not telling everyone a whole bunch of lies, because who would like that? No one. So I think the 717 in general is a lovely aircraft in infinite flight. However, a lot of negatives are to come with it, such as the fact the interior cabin, it's not really that good. There's the fact the physics on it are really broken. There's no interior, like the cockpit here is just a little bit dated, and it's not really up there. But remember, this aircraft hasn't really been changed since it was initially added to Infinite Flight, so I've just put the cargo bay door, but it doesn't look like that cargo bay door opens, which is quite unfortunate. But I think the aircraft as its whole, it's really cool and it's a really iconic Boeing aircraft. So that's definitely something worth noting on how like cool this aircraft is. So doesn't look like that cargo bay door is going to open for us. So yeah, that's quite unfortunate. But we're going to move on to the next aircraft in the worst Boeing aircraft within infinite flight. And unfortunately, it's the 767. So of course it is the three main legacy aircraft. And this aircraft, it needs some love. It is totally forgotten about. It feels like, as an infinite flight user, you don't see many people using it. I think this is probably the only livery I've ever used on the 767 in the recent times, is the old-fashioned American Airlines livery, because I think it's a pretty cool livery, pretty iconic, and easily recognisable as liveries as a whole. So we're going to quickly load in, and I'll just explain to you why I think the 767, again, is probably one of the worst, if not the worst, Boeing aircraft. So for a start, this thing doesn't have a cockpit. There is no cockpit view. So we'll go see what they have in terms of a cockpit here. And yeah, I mean, it's definitely worse than the 717 I've shown you, but it's better than the C-17 Globemaster we looked at just a few minutes ago. So I think the cockpit is literally a sticker. There is literally no switches, no nothing. It is genuinely a sticker, and there is no cockpit view accessible. I'm just swapping between the HUD and the normal view there, which is quite unfortunate. The livery itself, despite being iconic and easily recognisable, it's a little bit battered and old. So it's not really up there with all of the other livery expectations and standards Infinite Flight has. Now I think the structure of the aircraft as well is rather inadequate in comparison to the other aircraft. Now, it's a bit unfair comparing this aircraft to like the 777 because they are different aircraft, and the 777 was recently reworked. I don't think it's an awfully hard aircraft to land, but I very rarely see people fly the 767 solely based on the fact, probably due to the fact there's no cockpit view. And that is very unfortunate, and I'm interested to see if any of you do regularly fly the 767. You can hardly see as well the cargo doors on the sides of the aircraft. They're very faint, very vague. The engine as well, it's pretty much non-existent. So of course you've got the little interior thing, but look at that. That is literally a moving sticker. It's just a sticker rotating. It's hardly the blades that we're used to. So we'll just cut off the engines there and we'll see how they look. However, the engines do look better than the Embraer, the E-Jet engines at time of recording, because the update is not out, and I don't know if it is out at time of release. Hopefully it is. But yeah, so the engines do look pretty cool from this side kind of point of view. But we'll just do a little short final, and we'll just see how hard is this beast to land. So we'll just get a short final of that. And it's easier to control than the 717. So I suppose that is a perk it's got going for it. It's nicer to control, easier to control. And we are coming in quite soon, so the physics on this aircraft are certainly better than the 717 in general. And we should be able to get a nice smooth landing there. That was alright, not too bumpy. I felt a bit of contact with the ground. But I don't think it was too hard of an aircraft to land. Of course, you do have the spoilers, which I think look quite nice. And the reverse thrust, general infinite flight standard that as well on the 767. So I think all in all, these are probably the three worst Boeing aircraft in infinite flight. Now there are also Airbuses and all sorts of other companies within infinite flight. So if you want to see the worst three Airbus airplanes in infinite flight, let me know down below and I can sort that video out for you all. But other than that, if you did enjoy this YouTube video, please make sure you like and subscribe, and I'll see you again next time. Good night.
Find your way into this wonderland, cross the